That being said, we are more than halfway through the season out. We saw week 8 recently completed. As I'm recording this podcast right now, it's Tuesday night on October 24th, 2023. Right now, we have the first week 9 games that are kicking off. New Mexico State, Louisiana Tech, Liberty, and Western Kentucky. Hopefully, you guys are watching this game or maybe having it tabbed onto a separate screen. That has some big implications in Conference USA. Winner of that game is going to have the inside track, by the way, of going and hosting the Conference USA Championship at the end of the year. So that's a big game from that conference perspective. Now, that out of the way, now that we're here in week number 9, and it's starting up as we speak, I do have a brand new top 25 for you guys. Now, this is as of yesterday. It is not going to take into account any of the games that are happening right now as we speak. This is as of the completion of the week 8 games that were completed on Saturday, October 21st. Now, before I show you guys these rankings, here is a little bit of a disclaimer for you guys, right? These are not how I would rank these teams. This is not how I would do it. If you want to see how I would personally rank these teams, let me know down in that comment section. I would certainly consider doing that as we get closer to having our very first college football playoff rankings being released. In the meantime, though, what these rankings are, these are power ratings. And what these power ratings represent is, as of today, who would be favored over whom on a neutral site field, and that's based on their body of work completed over the course of the season. We don't necessarily project too much into the future with these teams, or at least we try our best not to project too terribly much. We base it off of what have you done over the course of this season, and we go based off of that. And it's also expectation based. So winning by 24 when you are only a 10-point favorite, for example, is going to help you more and give you more of a boost in these power ratings than, let's say, you were that 24-point favorite, but you only end up winning by 12, winning by 14. One, the former helps you, the latter is going to hurt you a little bit in these power ratings. It's essentially expectation based. So, disclaimer out of the way, we actually do not have any new teams enter this top 25. And this is the first time that we had this happen so far this year. So, I think we're starting to see a little bit more of a clear-cut top 25. But we still see a little bit of movement here. We're going to start from the bottom, as Drake would say. And then we will work our way up to the top and reveal that number 1 ranking last. We'll start from the bottom, though, 21 through 25. Here's what those teams are ranked as of tonight. Now, we've had Miami ranked in this top 25 the entire time, even after they lose 2 games in a row to Georgia Tech and North Carolina, and even after those 2 losses. Yeah, that home game against Clemson. And the model, surprisingly enough, the model actually had believed that the wrong team was favored. Clemson was favored by Vegas. The model believed that Miami actually should have been favored. And it turns out the model was right. We saw Miami win 28-20 in overtime, but they found a way to win. So we've had Miami rated ahead of Clemson, or at least very similarly. Now Miami's ahead of Clemson. Iowa's at 25, ugly loss, but we still love their defense. We really like what they were doing defensively. One of the best defenses in the country. Just their offense is just insanely inconsistent, if it even is existent at all. And then rounding out this up, these first 5, Texas A&M at 22. Arizona, who was on bye this week, is at number 21. They did move down slightly in the rankings, but there was no change of our power rating system. I don't change a power rating of a team that was on bye because we don't have any new information to really work off of. Okay, so we got that out of the way first and foremost. Now, we're going to work our way up. We're going to now jump into the top 20. We got a little bit more notable changes here in this top 20. Two teams in particular, North Carolina. This time last week, I had North Carolina in my top 10, but North Carolina had an extremely egregious loss to Virginia. They were a 24-point favorite. They found a way to lose to a team who, were pulling for Virginia after what happened to their program tragically at the end of last season. But Virginia was also a team that didn't have an FBS win all year. And I mean, Virginia was going to get one eventually. Did not think it was going to happen to this North Carolina game. This is the type of game that keeps you out of the college football playoff at the end of the year. I remember when Ohio State took on Purdue, and Ohio State was shocked by Purdue back in 2018. It was the only loss that Ohio State had, but that loss was so egregiously bad, it ultimately kept them out of the top 5, even though they still ended up winning the Big Ten that year. So that team was led by the late Dwayne Haskins. Prayers up to the Haskins family still. Rest in peace to a guy that I really liked to watch in college. But this North Carolina team, inexcusable loss. This was a bad loss. So we had to move them down, and we moved them down significantly. We still think they're a top 25 worthy team, but down 8 spots in number 8, they had the biggest fall within this top 25 of this week. UCLA, on the other hand, UCLA playing some solid ball. We actually did move them in the opposite direction of UCLA, or not of UCLA, of God, who we were just talking about? We're North Carolina. We moved them in the opposite direction of North Carolina. UCLA taking on Stanford on the road, and I mean UCLA handles their business. Nothing too crazy here. 42-7 win over Stanford. Really good win. That's how you close a team out. Colorado, I'm looking at you. Because unlike Colorado, UCLA, when they had a free score lead, did not give it up in the second half. Actually, they expanded their lead in the second half. So shout out to UCLA just for maintaining the focus here, as we'll see UCLA. They're up 5 spots, and they move up to number 17 in the entire country. Now, we'll move into the top 15 yet. And here in this top 15, biggest notable change that we have, it's Texas. Texas, we had ranked number 8 in the country at the FBS level. We did move them down 5 spots. It was a pretty significant drop for really a couple of reasons, right? First and foremost, you were supposed to blow out Houston, and not only did they fail to blow out Houston, Texas was very close to losing this game. Extraordinarily close to losing this particular game. 1 point, this was a game, actually 2 separate times it was tied in the second half. It was tied as late as 7:43 left to play in the fourth quarter. Texas is very fortunate to come out on top. They're still have all of their goals in front of them. Big 12 championship, possibly an appearance into the college football playoff, but it does lead into my second reason. Quinn Ewers did end up getting hurt in this game. It is a shoulder injury. This shoulder injury is a AC joint sprain. It's grade 2, and it was discovered it was discovered yesterday. We're going to see how good this Texas quarterback room really is. Redshirt freshman Malik Murphy is going to presume to be the starter. He won the backup job in the spring. Is this a time as well, though? Do we get to see an Arch Manning? He was the number 5 overall recruit in the 2023 ESPN class. I don't think Arch Manning should start by any means, but if it's a blowout or Malik Murphy ends up struggling for whatever reason, do we get to see a peak of Arch Manning, of related, obviously, to Peyton and Eli, and arguably one of the best football families in America. Really, football royalty. So an interesting question there for sure. I'm really curious with how that develops as we see Quinn Ewers deal with that injury. But in the meantime, Texas is down 5 spots. They're at number 13 in the country for me. Okay, so we have the top 10 coming up, and this is going to be an extremely hot take. I'm warning you guys right now. I'm going to show you this list from 10 to 6, and I already know where you guys are looking at. Kansas State, up 11 spots. We're going to talk about Kansas State more in depth here in a little bit, because a little bit of spoiler for you guys. This was a team that really surprised me in a pleasant way over the course of last football's weekend. But this is a Kansas State team. I think they found a spark a couple of weeks ago, and all of a sudden, Kansas State's that's a team that I don't know if there's a lot of teams out there that are like, yeah, I want to play Kansas State right now. This team is coming in red hot. They also do get to avoid Oklahoma as well. They don't have to worry about the Sooners. They do play Texas in a couple of weeks as well. Texas without its starting quarterback. Can Kansas State find its way back into the Big 12 championship? They're certainly playing extremely high-level ball ever since that loss to Oklahoma State. And listen, Kansas State does have a couple of losses on this resume right now, but one of them was a last-second field goal to the Missouri Tigers. They had to hit a 60-yard field goal, by the way, in order for that to actually hit. And then you got Oklahoma State on the road. Oklahoma State playing good ball too. Honestly, Oklahoma State probably should be ranked in the top 25. Maybe they'll prove that over this week, but this goes to show Kansas State an extremely good football team. And I think they're criminally underrated by the AP poll. I think they're criminally underrated by the coaches poll. They're probably going to be criminally overrated or underrated when we do start to see those college football playoff top 25 rankings start being produced. Believe this time next week is when the first one comes out. Bless up. You love to see it, by the way. So we're very curious to see how Kansas State handles these next few games. But keep an eye on the Wildcats. I think they're going to sneak up on a lot of people as we get into the tail end of this football season, as we get into November. Because beyond that Texas game, this schedule is very navigatable for Kansas State. And I could see them approaching 10 wins by the time the dust completely settles here at the end of the regular season. And finally, we do have the top 5, rounding out the new top 5. 2 things of note. LSU, I think, is really starting to figure things out defensively, and they have the best quarterback in the SEC. They certainly have a top 5 quarterback in the country in Jaden Daniels. As long as Jaden Daniels is playing for LSU, they are going to be in every single game that the Tigers are playing in this year. Now, I know what's going to cause another point of concern, having them ranked ahead of Florida State, because I know what you're going to tell me in the comment section if you bother to comment down the comment section. These 2 teams have already played, and Florida State won convincingly. Okay. But if they were playing on a neutral field today, I would bet that LSU, if they're not favored at Vegas, I would argue that on a neutral site, I think LSU would be slightly favored over Florida State, because LSU hasn't really struggled since that Florida State game. I think they're starting to really figure things out, and I could see them beating Alabama and taking that SEC West crown and competing for an SEC championship ultimately. Ohio State and Penn State played each other. Ohio State did end up winning that game, but it didn't really change my opinion on either team. We expected it to be that one possession game. We weren't 100% sure if Ohio State was going to cover, even though I did say Ohio State was going to win the game. My opinion didn't really change for both teams. I think these 2 teams are really damn good. But Michigan, they're dealing with some things. We'll see what happens at what the NCAA does end up deciding to do. But in the meantime, Michigan's still playing some really good ball. I do have them as my number one team in the country now. Not that I wasn't impressed with Ohio State or Penn State. They were in my top 2 last week. But Michigan went on the road in for a night game. It's a rivalry game as well. And so when you have all those ingredients, weird things can happen, is what I'm trying to say. And Michigan was able to block out that noise because it's a major distraction, those NCAA allegations. That could be a major distraction that could break a vast majority of programs in the country if it was brought upon them against their respective programs. Michigan, we haven't seen them lose that focus yet. They took it personally, and they just drug rug Michigan State. They performed well above expectations. They're like a 25-point favorite, ended up winning by damn near 50. So that playing that well above expectations is what drove Michigan to this number 1 spot. They're going to be on bye this week, and then next couple of weeks, they'll get into the toughest part of their schedule. Penn State, Ohio State, still a lot to sort out in that Big Ten East. But yeah, that is my top 25 power ratings here in week number 9. Let me know how you guys feel about it down in the comments section. Who do I have too high? Who do I have too low? Or do I have a very base take? Just let me know down in that comment section. Love to hear your thoughts.